The 3-2-1 method is the easiest way to smoke ribs. Today we are smoking some ribs at a low temp for 3 hours, wrapping them for 2 hours, then glazing them for 1 hour. I bought a rack of spare ribs at the grocery store and I'm going to trim them down into a St. Louis style rib. I start doing this by trimming off the extra meat from the ends that aren't attached to any of the bones. My next step is to trim off a few inches from the top of the rack of ribs. And as you saw, I made a little incision for myself just to make sure that it was straight before I cut all the way down into the ribs. This is where the majority of that annoying cartilage lives, and I want to just end its life right now. There will still be a little bit of cartilage left on the St. Louis style ribs, but much more manageable now than if you were to smoke the whole rack of spare ribs by itself. Next up, I will trim off any of the excess fat. And on this particular rack of ribs, there's only a few spots that I was unhappy with. You just want to make sure you get anything that's real thick that will not render down in our cook. Now we're going to flip these over, and there's this little strip of meat on the back when you buy spare ribs, and I'm not sure why I do this. Maybe I'm just really OCD, but I always take it off. I've never left it on there, so I have no idea what happens when you do, so maybe you could experiment that for yourself. And of course, we will also trim off any excess fat that it's not going to render down in our smoke on the backside as well. Normally on baby back ribs, I peel off the entire membrane, but for some reason on these spare ribs, I always have a hard time doing it. So today I am just going to score it. Scoring the membrane will allow it to break into little pieces when you're slicing up your ribs, which will still help you get a tender bite. Today I'm using yellow mustard as my binder. I'm going to start by lathering up the backside of my ribs, and my first seasoning that I'm going to use is the salt, pepper, garlic rub from Kinder's. Then over top of that we have Southern Smoked barbecue rub from Smithfield. If you don't have this at home, which you probably don't, you could just use your favorite barbecue rub. Now I'm going to flip this over so that the meat side is facing up, and I will repeat this process. We're going to lather it up with mustard, get some salt, pepper, garlic on there, and then of course our barbecue rub. And at this point you can see that my hand is pretty disgusting, so I might as well make it worse by pouring mustard all over it and dumping seasoning all over it like a wild savage. And then I'll just pat this onto my ribs. Even though this method seems very messy, I find it much easier than trying to stand the rib up on its side to get all these areas covered. If you think I'm an idiot and you have a better way of doing this, feel free to let me know down in the comments.
Welcome to my new house. And not only do we have my new house, but we have my new smoker. I am so excited to be making this video today because this is the first video that I'm making in my new house, my actual cooking video. I've made one before unboxing this bad boy. So the 3-2-1 rib method is a rib method that I personally have never tried. I've seen a lot of people talk about it, so I wanted to try it today. For our cook, I'm gonna be running at 200 degrees for the first 3 hours, and then for the remaining 3 hours, I'm gonna bump it up to 225 degrees. I've let these ribs sweat out for about a good 30 minutes. Let's open up our pit and get them on. Today, we are taking life by the horns and we are smoking. Take a look at that beautiful thin blue smoke that we have. Oh yeah. All right, so now when I make ribs, I just try to make sure that this is all nice and straight. And then I like to bunch them together like this. This just helps there to get more meat in between all the bones. And then now, let's shut it down, let it do its thing. All right guys, so we're here at the 90-minute mark on our ribs, and what I have is a little spray here that I made. It's 50% apple juice and 50% apple cider vinegar. And I'm back at home guys, so if you hear my kid in the background, just don't mind it at all. The reason why I include apple cider vinegar in my sprays is because it has a higher smoke point, has a higher burn point. And then I use apple juice because apple juice kind of balances out the tanginess that is in the vinegar. It kind of adds that sweet into it. If you just use all vinegar, I don't know if you can necessarily taste it, but you know, some people say that they can. So I like to use a 50-50 mixture. So let's go ahead and open up our smoker. As you see here, our rub is set on there real nice, but it's starting to dry out just a tad. I'm just gonna give it a light little spritz because it's not as dry as it normally would be if I had it at a higher temp. I'm gonna give it a light spritz at the 90-minute mark, and then we'll be back out in about 45 minutes to take another look. Now we're at the 2 hour and 15-minute mark, and these ribs are starting to really take on a beautiful color. They definitely are getting a little bit dried out. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this a good spritz now and get them real nice and wet with our apple cider vinegar and our apple juice mixture. We'll come back out in 45 minutes and see how they're doing.
My ribs are about 10 minutes from coming off, so I decided to go inside and lay down a few sheets of aluminum foil. Then I'm going to take 3 little pads of butter and stick them on my aluminum foil about the length of the ribs. Then I'm going to drizzle some barbecue sauce over top and dump in a little bit of apple juice. If you like your ribs really sweet, you could do this because it definitely makes them very sweet.
Alright guys, we're at the 3 hour mark. We're gonna go ahead and take a look now at our ribs. Oh baby, check out the color on these ribs. Trying to get a little bit of pullback from the bones. Let's go ahead, take it inside and get it wrapped.
Now that we got our ribs inside, we're gonna put the meat down into our foil, and we'll repeat the same process on the back side. We're gonna put in our 3 pads of butter, a little bit of barbecue sauce, and then some apple juice. We wanna make sure that we wrap up our aluminum foil very tight. However, we wanna make sure that no bones are poking through, because we want to get a lot of good steam action in here. Now we're gonna put this back on the smoker for 2 hours, turning up our temperature to 225 degrees.
All right, so it's been 2 hours now. We're gonna go ahead and open up our smoker. We're gonna very carefully remove this because it's gonna be very, very hot, full of liquids too, so we just wanna carefully remove this. We're gonna set it right down here on a rack. We're gonna get this bad boy opened up. We want to let some of the steam out here just for a second. Be very, very careful so we don't get burned. Ouch. Oh, and I wish you guys could see what I see. So now we're going to take our ribs out of this package. We just want to let some of those juices drip off. And I'm going to very carefully get them flipped over onto our smoker. And as you guys see, we have some beautiful pullback from these bones. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, these things are probably done right here where we are, but for some odd reason, we're going to let them go for another hour.
After I take the ribs out of the wrap, I'm going to set them on the smoker for a few minutes just so that they can kind of dry out a little bit.
Now that the ribs have had a few minutes to dry off, we're going to open it up. As you see, they're still kind of drying off. That's what all this smoke is on here doing right now. It's all like that steam coming off of it. So we could have gave it a few more minutes, but we're just going to go ahead and give this a nice little glaze right now. What I got here is some good old barbecue sauce and apple juice mixture.
Go ahead and drizzle this all over your ribs. You can be as messy or as clean as you want. How much you put on there really is just going to depend on how sticky and saucy you like your ribs. However, we have to remember that this is going to be on here for 1 more hour at 225 degrees, so they're definitely going to dry out a little bit. And I like to make sure I get my bones all glazed up. This doesn't make them taste any better, it just makes them look better. We are officially done on our 3-2-1 ribs. This is how they look. It is time to get them off onto our cutting board and bring them inside so that way we can enjoy.
All right, so here we are inside. I let them cool off quite a bit because they're really hot. This is our finished and final product. They're really nice and dark. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut into them. All right, so we're just gonna slice into these, and wow, they are so tender. I'm just gonna cut up 2 more bones here because I think that's all that I could honestly handle today. I need to eat ribs. And if you want a little pro tip, sometimes it's hard to cut the way I was doing it. It's a lot easier to cut it from the back because you could actually see where the bones are going. So I know I'm doing more than I said I was, but we'll call it good right there. All right, so here we go. Great smoke ring. We have a great top, nice glazed smoke. I'm ready to dig into one of these. Let's eat. All right, here we go. This has a great smoke flavor in it. You can tell it's been smoked for a long time. It's coming off the bone, just perfect. You know, these aren't bad. That apple juice makes it really sweet. I mean, if you come to my house and you get rib like that, I think you'd be pretty happy. Super tender, they're very sweet, kind of sticky. There's a lot of really good flavors going on here. Sorry, I haven't recorded a video in a long time. I don't know how to talk anymore. All I could do is just keep eating the ribs. Well, that's all I got time for in today's video. I don't even know how to end a video anymore. It's been such a long time since I've done this. I really miss you guys. I'm happy that I just made some really great ribs. I'm gonna go ahead and keep eating. This is my dinner tonight. Hope you guys have a great day, night, whatever time it is when you found this video. And I'll see you guys hopefully soon.